Welcome to the Darkstream. Voxday. Voxday.blogspot.com. Welcome to the reprehensibles. Welcome to the unauthorized. Welcome to the Dread Ilk, to the VFM, and to the Bears. So, I do not see a lot of movies. I think the last time I went to a movie in the movie theater was the Return of the King. So I'm about as out of it in that regard as you can get. But for reasons that I'm not going to get into, I actually found myself roped into attending Avengers Endgame. And I'm really glad that I was, because this was something that, as you will understand soon, something that I needed to learn about, understand, and so forth. And those of you who have been paying attention over the past few months, I think, can probably surmise what we're talking about here. But so we're going to talk about some spoilers here. Be aware. If you don't want to hear about the spoilers and so forth, you should probably not watch this stream tonight. But the first thing I have to say about it is that it was relentlessly stupid from on a macro level and on a micro level. It was really kind of amazing to me how they managed to make it reasonably entertaining, while at the same time assuming that you are a complete moron. So let me give you a couple examples. First, I'll start with the macro level thing, and this actually goes back to some of the previous movies. Now, I didn't see Captain Marvel, but I did see the other Thanos one. And what was ridiculous about it, what was so absurd about it, was that the idea that Thanos was going to fix the universe by randomly depopulating it of 50% of the people living there doesn't make any sense. And in fact, it not only didn't make sense, it didn't work. It made things observably worse on Earth. We don't know anything about what happened elsewhere, but to the extent we're giving any information, it's indicated that there's major problems going on all over the place. And then on top of that, it was just a dumb idea in the first place. You know, it might make sense if Thanos had said, I'm going to eliminate all the people with a gene that is inclined towards violence, or all the people who are inclined towards overpopulation, or anything else. And so the fundamental core of the movie didn't make any sense. Then, on the micro level, here's one of many examples. They miraculously come up with the idea to travel through time and undo the effects of the snap. They come up with this brilliant plan. I mean, you know, they accomplish something in a matter of days that that no one's ever been able to accomplish anywhere in history, or as far as we can tell, in any other dimension. And so so they decide, okay, well, we've got these little cartridges called PIM particles, and we can only use this to travel through time. We need one of these cartridges each time we travel through time. And there's even a little joke where Ant-Man ruins one of their precious particle cartridges. So Iron Man comes up with the brilliant idea that he and Captain America can go back in time to when Pym was producing these cartridges, and then they can steal it, right? And then they will have enough cartridges for the whole time heist, as they call it. Okay, so then they're going to come back 5 seconds later than they left, right? So given that they're going back in time, and given that they're, excuse me, always comes in threes. I don't know why. Anyhow, they're going back in time. They can stay there as long as they like. There's no rush. There's no hurry. So, given that this is such a fundamental and important part of their plan, why don't they stay there, introduce themselves to Hank Pym or whatever his name is, learn how he does what he does. Iron Man's certainly capable of recreating whatever machinery he does to create his particles. They can even, while they're learning it, have him produce a bunch more. And then they can return to the future with a machine, with lots and lots of cartridges, and their biggest flaw in their plan, which is that they everything's just a one-shot, is taken care of. Easily solved. And yet, these brilliant people who have figured out what nobody else has ever figured out don't figure out that. You know, it's just absolutely astonishing, and as I said before, it's relentlessly stupid. Now, we know why they did it. They did it because they're trying to create drama. You know, they're trying to create a way to let people travel through time, but only a little bit, and only for this one movie. But that's the main problem with this movie, is so much of the drama is fake. And what I mean by fake drama is that the drama wouldn't exist if it wasn't for some artificial barrier or some sort of artifice, usually related to being completely stupid, that puts the characters on a railroad and forces them, you know, on this roller coaster track, and so the viewer can't think about it. No, you're wrong, Nero. They are trying to create drama. They have to do it to create drama. And they didn't have to change the past. In fact, they did change the past because they stole the Pym particles. And they stole the Tesseract. And so your whole argument makes no sense. They could have very easily stuck around, created more, and then they could have stuck around, created as many as they needed, and then left, and leaving the same amount that they left behind. You know, your attempt to justify it is relentlessly stupid. You know, there are an incredible number of similar problems like that. And for example, um, they get the glove, right? And they immediately, they don't get it off the battlefield and fly away with it as fast as they can. Why don't they do that? Why do they, they act like they're trying to run away, but they're clearly not. And so, I found it hard to get past these obvious idiotic points. Now, what I have to say in praise of the movie is that there were obviously some good writers involved, and Boingo Bear, you're a moron. If you're, this is the stuff that I, a point of view. How do you deal with grown men that take these movies seriously? Am I wrong in thinking it's extremely inappropriate? These are billion-dollar culture war weapons. These are cultural weapons of mass destruction. And you're thinking, oh, how do you deal with people who do? That's just retarded. Where do you think the ideas are being put in people's minds? These are intellectual weapons, cultural weapons. And you're just blithely going, oh, we should just ignore it and let the kids be indoctrinated. There is, because I haven't even gotten to that point, there is a relentless amount of pause, of cultural programming, of propagandizing and attempting to mold people's minds. For example, when Captain America is in this little support group and they're trying to drive the emotional impact of all these people vanishing and how hard it is on everyone, how people can't move past it. It's all sort of a reference to 9/11. So, of course, the guy is talking about how he's been on his first date since the vanishing. And, of course, it's revealed that he's actually been on a date with another man. There's a lot of little things like that. And then, of course, you've got the much larger things where you're talking about all the girl power stuff. There's actually a really ridiculous moment where they suddenly show a bunch of girls together. This picture is actually taken from that momentary pose, and it's so cheesy and cringe. It's just amazing, and so I had people saying the same thing. Why do you guys bother doing this? Why bother publishing comics like these? Why? Because they are weapons in the cultural war, and that the other side understands that very, very well. That's why they were trying to. That's why Indiegogo is trying to shut it down. I mean, that's literally why they're trying to shut it down. I'm not saying that is. I'm not telling you that because it's my opinion. That's what we're told. And so, it's just, and you look at the transformation. Thor abdicating his kingdom of Asgard to give it to Black Valkyrie. Captain America abdicating his role as Captain America to be replaced by a Black Captain America. It's not in the movie, but Iron Man has already been replaced by Riri Ironheart. And so Ben Darling says, I thought Boingo Bear was just making a point that adults shouldn't watch that sort of thing rather than saying we shouldn't worry about it. But I guess I missed it since everyone else saw it. The point is that what the poets sing about matters. This is true since the time Plato writes about this extensively in the Republic. So the movies are the poems and the songs of our time. We live in a post-literate society. I mean, I'm doing these dark streams because a lot of you don't read books. I reach far more people because, I didn't want to do these dark streams. I'm a literary snob. I don't want to write comics. I like to write novels. I like to write serious intellectual nonfiction works. And I still do, but I also know that my most successful book ever sold fewer copies in 3 years than my most successful video gets views in 2 days. You sell 25,000 books, you're in the top 1% of authors. You do 50,000 views on video, and that's nothing. And so if you want to play and if you want to fight in the cultural war, you have to go where people are. And where people are is watching the videos, watching television, watching the movies. I'm still a reader. I'm finishing my second Hermann Hesse book in 5 days. See, I totally disagree with LaRue. He says reading is an inefficient use of time compared to video or audiobook in my humble opinion. It all depends on how fast you read. I read much, much, much faster than I can watch videos or than I can absorb information from listening. Also, I don't really absorb information from listening. So, also, movies have a much stronger power to emotionally manipulate you. And they do a very good job in this. The beginning of the movie, when Hawkeye loses his entire family without even seeing it happen, is great. It's really, really well done. And, the two character arcs that are really very good are Hawkeye's and Tony Stark's. Tony Stark's story is, it's very good. And the drama there is not fake. The drama there is legitimate. He knows that there's risk in getting involved. He doesn't want to get involved. He considers his marriage and his child the second chance that he wanted, that he needed. And so, and his heroism, giving up the life that he craved to go off and save others, is genuinely sacrificial, genuinely heroic, and the way that Pepper responds is meaningful and touching. But the the rest of them, the Thor story is downright insulting. The Ant-Man one is silly. The Hulk is, also kind of silly. And the worst thing is that in the process of the movie, at one point, they completely redefine heroism. They actually define heroism as being the best you that you can be. That's not heroism. That's self-help. And so, plus I have to admit, I kind of did enjoy really, since Iron Man's come out, people have been telling Space Bunny and I that the conversations between Tony and Pepper remind them of what they see when the relationship between me and my wife. so that's always probably kind of particularly interesting in that regard. With regards to what movies are positive, culturally positive, Chariots of Fire would be one example. I'm not the right person to ask because I don't watch a lot of movies. But I think the original Star Wars was good. Another thing that really irritated me about the movie was that there was just a level of crassness and vulgarity that was totally inappropriate to this movie. The way that Tony Stark and Captain America kept talking about Captain America's butt. That is not the way that straight men communicate with each other. Yes, Tony does tend to strike me. He's very much a Sigma, no question. Marimore, Fight Club is not what you think it is. Fight Club is gay propaganda. So, the thing that's so interesting is that there's such professionalism in elements of the movie. The sets were great, the props were great. All this stuff was pretty good. The technical stuff was really all very good. The cinematography was actually really nice, but it was the characters. So many of them were paper thin, and just. And again, the plot was relentlessly stupid. I've liked Robert Downey Jr. as an actor since Weird Science. So, but all through the movie was the theme that this was the end of an era, an end of what was still recognizably traditional Marvel superheroes. Oh, also, I can't comment enough on how bad Captain Marvel was. Captain Marvel was nothing more than a vastly overpowered Deus Ex Machina that had to be shipped out of the movie because reasons. Whenever, she was barely in the movie and, was ludicrously ineffective other than when she was ultra effective. It was so bad. It was just, it doesn't surprise me that Captain Marvel didn't do very well. And, if Captain Marvel is going to be the face of the franchise going forward, the franchise is going to go the way of Star Wars. I mean, it was just, it was amazingly bad. And so when you look at what, Prepper Jack wins the comments. Captain Marvel was Deus Ex Vagina. I can't even tell you how much I wish I'd thought that one up myself. Captain Marvel made over $1 billion. Yeah, because people were just watching the series. You need to remember that the fact that they make a lot of money off one movie doesn't mean that the series is going to continue Star Wars has managed to eviscerate itself. We'll see how long Marvel can continue, especially when competition begins to appear. So I'm not going to say more about that, but if that's something that you're going to be interested in, you might want to start putting some of your pennies together. Let's get to some of the super chats here. Margot asked last night, will young women learn to cook good food again, or are we stuck with Kraft mac and cheese for the foreseeable future? Yes, they will, because the Generation X mothers, a lot of them have worked at learning the skills that their mothers didn't teach them. I can actually think of a few, and they are passing those skills on to their daughters. We're also going to be creating some channels on Unauthorized just for that purpose. Missing Link said, hi Vox, I enjoyed yesterday's stream about revising history. Today, Owen told us nukes aren't real and gas chambers weren't used in World War II. Your thoughts? I think nukes are real, although there are some, have been some hints and indications that they're a bluff. Like my favorite book when I was a kid, my favorite science fiction book when I was a kid, The Program Man. Gas chambers probably weren't used in World War II as far as we know. Keen-Eyed Joe says, in A Throne of Bones is immaculate, the god of humans. He came in human form to save man from their sin. Are not elves, dwarves, and others excluded? You need to read Summa Helvetica. It literally deals with that question. That's actually the major plot point of the book. Investment equals Throne of Bones in the big screen. Not Throne of Bones. J.R. Wilson generously contributes 20 and says, a little towards the fight, and thank you for these streams. Thank you. You're welcome. And, we're in it to win it. Boingo, I was a little harsh, Boingo Bear. Keep in mind, I'm often not addressing the individual qua the individual. I'm addressing the individual because he is the vehicle for the idea. Okay. Never forget that I'm always focused on the ideas, and for the most part, as far as I'm concerned, people are vehicles for ideas. He said, Bungo Bear says, I come here to learn and I do thank you. Meant no offense. I'll reserve my questions for stupid questions. No, that's not necessary. I mean, all I'm saying is that you can disagree and you can argue with me and you can try to set me straight and that sort of stuff. That's fine. Just realize that I treat everybody pretty much the same, which is, I won't say ruthlessly, but pretty much without any concern whatsoever for your feelings. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just saying what I think. So, more or less. Bear Koch says, am I wrong in thinking that Christians, nationalists, conservatives, and Republicans should stop supporting our cultural enemies by paying for movies and streaming service? No, you're not wrong at all. We should. And I absolutely violated one of my general principles by going and seeing that movie today. But as I said, there are other things going on that sometimes, override your general principles. And so, whether you feel that I'm being hypocritical or not, that's fine. I think you'll, with some of the stuff that we're working on, there are things I need to learn, and so, I didn't want to read all of the epic fantasies that I have read. I have not enjoyed Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. I loathe it. I didn't particularly enjoy, what's his name? I want to say the series with all the rape, but I can't remember. It's not, everyone would think I'm talking about a Game of Thrones. It's 2 pound. The author has a blog called R.S. Baker. There's a series by R.S. Baker that's just really appalling, and I disliked it intensely. But I read the entire series because I was working on my own. Epic fantasy series, so I felt that I should read as much of this other stuff as possible. So, let's see. Horatia said Box probably prevented hundreds of people from paying to see it. It's possible. It's possible. Yeah. There's some. I really tried to read The Name of the Wind. I tried twice. I couldn't do it. I absolutely couldn't do it. Ursula Le Guin. The Left Hand of Darkness is pretty good. Everything else was mediocre. Narrow says, also for the last 2 films, they've been making Star-Lord look like a complete dumbass. In this film, they pretty much destroy him. Every European character is destroyed. Yeah, I don't think that's an accident. I don't think that's an accident at all. And so, and that's why Marvel is going to find itself replaced. Duralex Sedlex, you engaged in a little first-hand market research into your competition. It's not like you signed James Gunn's paycheck. This is true, but I like to confront these things head on. I do recommend that people stop supporting their enemies. But I'm in a slightly different position than most because we're going at the enemy head on. Absolutely head on. And what does Sun Tzu say? You must know your enemy and you must know yourself. And so, if I wasn't a religious man, I would probably be a religious follower of Sun Tzu. What's better, DC movies versus Marvel movies? I haven't even bothered watching any DC movies. They're not, the Marvel stuff is much more successful. Yes, I did hear that Disney rehired James Gunn. Not even a little bit surprised. And so, but what I can tell you is that I'm excited. I'm extremely excited after seeing Avengers Endgame, because they are opening doors for us and for others. Disney is destroying 2 of the most valuable franchises that are out there. People may not realize it because obviously Avengers Endgame did really, really well. Made a ton of money. Maybe more money than anybody else has ever made on a movie. But that doesn't mean that they're not about to go downhill. You have to have a peak before you can go downhill. Taffy says, do you think the refusal to use known conservative writers is forcing all these directors to write the films themselves? No, there's tons of lefty writers. There's more lefty writers than conservative writers. Conservatives do tend to be better at structure, etc. That's true, but they've got this stuff down to a science. Let's see. Oh, apparently I missed a couple super chats here. Hang on. What updates do you have for upcoming Archaven release dates? I don't have any. We've mostly been working on some other stuff. The thing that's going to come out first and very soon is Alt Hero Q in print and Alt Hero 1 through 6 Omnibus in paperback and in hardcover and going out to all the backers. We've actually got, I think, 2 more Quantum Mortis done. We've got 2 Swan Knight Saga ready for the letterer. I just need to find some time to actually get these things out. I've been very, very busy with the Indiegogo stuff as well as this big project that we're going to be announcing in about 2 weeks. The Male Ray asks, thoughts on Captain America ending in character or out of character, selfish or not? Seems very selfish for a fairly selfless character. I think that it was understandably out of character. Was it selfish? No, I don't think so. I think that he was choosing to retire. Every warrior has to know when he's no longer in shape for the fight, no longer has the stomach for the fight anymore. And if you look at the fact that they managed to save the world, and managed to bring back however many billion people, I think that was it was a reasonable and even mildly touching thing to do. Especially, remember, he's got that close but uncomfortable relationship with Tony Stark. Tony died. Natasha died. You're dealing with somebody who is caught up in the throes of grief. And so I know some people have criticized that. I don't think so. In fact, I thought they actually, except for the weird vulgarity and whatnot, I thought they actually handled Captain America pretty well. And the way that they subverted the Hail Hydra from the comics was actually rather delicious. So I don't have any problem with it. I think that it fit the story. Matthew Milam says, I've bought 5 of your books off Amazon so far without knowing that buying direct helped the margins. Should have in retrospect, so here's some extra. Thanks, Matthew, but we're happy to have people buy from wherever they're most comfortable. I mean, yes, we really do like to encourage people to buy direct from the Arkhaven Comics store or from the Castelia Direct store. But we're happy either way. So, but it's very kind of you to to rectify something that didn't need rectifying. Is Deus always God, or can it also mean the? I think so. Thoughts on the 48 Laws of Power? Never read it. Don't really go for self-help stuff. Nuclear Pizza said, why do you loathe Wheel of Time? I have a friend recommending it after he read it. Because it's terrible. It's actually very promising when you read like the prologue or the preface or whatever it's called. And then the story itself starts, and it's okay. It's not bad for about the first 3/4 of the first book. And then it just really ceases to go anywhere interesting. And by about the 5th or 6th book, you are ready to hurl the book against the wall every time Nynaeve or whatever her name is tugs at her ponytail. I would highly recommend even something like David Eddings' The Belgariad. I think even The Sword of Shannara, at least the first one, is better than Wheel of Time. I don't have any regard for it. I know some people like it, but Josh Randall says, this is an irrelevant question, but just out of curiosity, what would be your fantasy casting for some of the main characters in a Throne of Bones TV series? I see Corvus as Michael Fassbender. Yeah, that would actually make sense, to be honest with you. I've never given the matter any thought whatsoever, to be honest. The one, I mean, the one character that I absolutely love and I think would make an excellent, I'm spacing on the name right now. The main antagonist, Sextus's father, Severus. I think that Charles Dance would make a great Severus, especially now that he's gotten a little older. But yeah, I just, I'm not a TV movie celebrity guy. I just don't pay that close attention to this kind of stuff. And it's not really my job, but, I think it'll be interesting to see how these things shake out. Who's your favorite Avenger? Oh, definitely Tony Stark, which I find interesting because I never found Iron Man interesting in the comics at all. I also like Hawkeye just because, he seems to be the one like relatively normal individual. It's like the psychologically normal individual. Let's see. Sean Connery as Gimli. Do you think that Elric was an open attack on the hero archetype? Yes, absolutely. No question. John Galt said, all right, so what did I miss about the Avengers? Okay, short answer. Relentlessly stupid, full of pause, but some decent character and technical work. Are the low employment numbers in the U.S. mostly an illusion? Yes. No, Hawkeye is the Jeremy Renner dude, the one with the bow. Matthew Milam has a good point. It seems a lot of these authors get trapped by their series, Terry Brooks especially. Yeah, because most authors are not really capable of writing epic stuff. They're not capable of keeping it all straight in their heads, and so they get themselves caught up in the same trap that you see that like the Marvel movies get caught up in. They're constantly having to make things bigger and bigger and bigger. First you're saving the world, then you're saving the universe, then you're saving the multiverse, and the funny thing is they're trying to up the stakes on the one hand, but in order to allow people to connect to the story, they have to like tie it back to an individual. So it's like, why don't you just keep the stakes smaller in the first place? People will care more about it. It seems like there's a lot of authors who don't realize that saving the world at the last possible minute, when they're outnumbered and about to, it's like, look, that hasn't been new for decades and generations. So stop doing it. Yes, I've read Pierce Brown's Red Rising. That's actually a surprisingly good series. It's not great, but it's good. Let's see. Jilly Bear says, I can't get past my dislike of Chris Evans to like Captain America. Well, that's obviously a limitation of him as an actor. Do you think them putting incest in Game of Thrones is an effort to normalize it? No, I don't think so. I think that George Martin is just a bit of a sexual freak who has spent his entire life fantasizing about things, and I think that he was trying to make the royal family, the Targaryens, a breed apart like the Egyptian pharaohs. That's a good question. What perspective characters should R.R. Martin have focused on in Ice and Fire? Um, he shouldn't have focused on Daenerys. She was not interesting. Once she got her dragons, she ceased to be interesting. Um, he should have stayed away from Jaime. I'd have to think more about that, though. Endgame. Black showed up late, like usual. Then rich old white man saves the world. White people pass the keys to blacks and women. The end. More or less, yeah. Our off topic, but our tech and coding job is going to be in high demand in 5 years. I think good techs and good coders will be in high demand, but I think that just like it's going to be difficult for people because there's going to be a lot more mediocre and totally incompetent ones. Let's see. All right. Well, that pretty much covers it. I got started late tonight, so I'm gonna turn in early tonight. But thanks for stopping in and checking it out. I'm sure we'll talk more about this general subject, not Avengers, but just the whole movies as cultural war weapons. Anyhow, look forward to seeing you the next time. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.